Welcome to Mo Loves to Talk podcast. Today is Tuesday, May the 27th, and we have the lovely Dr. Shalonda Carlisle in the building. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm your host, Crystal Monique with Brook and Crime Media Group LLC. And today is such a lovely day. I made it in safely off the road. And I was super excited because Dr. Shalonda and we always have a really great conversation. And I've been trying to get her on back on. Everybody's been saying, is Dr. Shalonda coming back on? I'm like, yes, she's coming. She's coming. She's here. Yes, yes. So, Dr. Shalonda, what you been up to?
May has been extremely busy. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I've been busy with clients. I've been busy speaking on different mental health topics. May is just, even with graduations and people going to the next grade, May is just always extremely busy month with Mother's Day, just a lot of different things that happen in May.
Okay, and I'm just glad that you were able to grace us again today. But we know we always start of the quote of the day. So, failure will never overtake me if my determination to succeed is strong enough. I love that. If you're going through hell, keep going. That's powerful. And
Mm.
believe in yourself, because if nobody else believe in you, you gotta believe in yourself. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Now I like that one.
I like that one, but the one that really sticks out to me is if you're going through hell, keep going. Because that's the hardest to push through. And that's when you really have to, rely on your faith and your support to get you through. And I think all of us, it's just different times right now. And so a lot of us are going through different types of hell. Well, it be a relationship or a job or just things that we're trying to transition in our own life. So I
I
think
do.
that's a really good quote.
I do too. I love that one. And when something is important enough, you'll do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Okay.
Absolutely.
So those are some really great quotes for today. I do want to jump into it because we got a lot of great conversation with Dr. Shalana today. We're going to talk about my favorite segment is news you can use with the entertainment. And of course, me being a big events person. I love doing events and I love going to events. We're going to start off with the podcast festival is coming back 2026. Yes. So, if you didn't get a chance to see it last year, and you didn't get, I mean, this year, and you didn't get a chance to come, this is your opportunity to come see what we do, see how we rock, see how get to work with and look at some of the influencers and and just enjoy the conversation. And if you want to be a vendor, we starting off with the vendors. So you can reach out to me at brookandcrane@gmail.com. And I also want to start a two other shows on the podcast festival. So I want to do a comedy show, and I also want to do some artists. So if you're a comedian and you think you're funny, I want you to send me a video, and it has to be clean because we're gonna post it. I also want, because whoever is the finalist and whoever wins, we're gonna post it on the podcast festival page. So I want it to be clean, clean jokes. And yeah, I mean, if y'all know me, I love to laugh. I love going to comedy shows. I love checking out who the latest newest comedian. So we got a lot of comedians on Instagram that do a lot of skits. So if you think you're funny and you think you got what it takes, and you know what it takes to get on that comedy stage, because we're gonna bring, like, I don't know if you remember Def Comedy Jam back in the day. I mean, I'm kind of telling my age, but if you remember Def Comedy Jam, where they actually brought a lot of comedians, Martin Lawrence, he was hosting it at one time. It's a lot of other comedians were hosting it. That's the kind of flavor that I want to bring back to Mississippi. So I'm a host it. I may get another comedian to host it with me, but I just think that we needed some more comedy shows down here in Mississippi. And I'm gonna give you artists, and I'm gonna give the comedians a chance to show what you got. And of course, this is going to be shown on our podcast festival and page, as well as national. Hopefully we can get some more TV coverage, because this year we got TV coverage. WJTV did, they came and covered it for us, and Dr. Shalonda was on there, didn't even know she was even highlighted on news. I didn't even know they was there. So, you just never know who's gonna come in the building and cover it. And I just really enjoyed the podcast festival. So yes, that's gonna be 2026 in March. So more details for that to come. Of course, we want you to check out Master Chef ZT, his services. If you would like to him to cater, do a private catering, private chef, or if you birthdays, weddings, you're gonna text food to 769-770-4890. And that way you can actually see it, talk to him, and you can get a consultation, so you'll be able to get his wonderful food, because if you ever had his food, it's delicious. I don't know if y'all know this, but this week they having the Waterworks social. It's May 29th, 2025, 6 p.m. That's like in the Fundering District. We got June 10th on Ferry Street is Saturday, June 21st, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So that's coming back. Two Cigar Lounge is having their sticks on Sunday, so you can come chill. DJ Energizer is going to be on the patio. You can enjoy it. Come get you a stick and enjoy your little cocktail at the Cigar Lounge. Just right next to Last Call. Guess what? Speaking of comedians, Rob Kazi. I don't know if you guys know him, but Rob Kazi is going to be at Johnny T's on May the 30th. So if you want to do a girls' night out or a date night, go to Johnny T's. It's a comedian. He's an actual professional comedian that's on tour right now. His name is Rob Kazi. Get your tickets already. The show starts at 7:30, and that's at Johnny T's, and that's May 30th coming up. Then we have, let's see what's next. Oh, our very own Ray Kincaid. He's just dropped his EP 1999. So make sure you go check that out. He's also on tour. So make sure you check out the tickets wherever he comes in your city. 601 Day is coming up on June the 1st, and I know, if y'all know, 601 is really popular in Mississippi. So it's called 601 Day. They having a block party. It is at 4 p.m. Eddie Wright Barbecue, food trucks, and DJ Nasty show. It's gonna be at 4 p.m. So if you don't have anything to do that Sunday, June 1st, you can go and take your family friendly, and just enjoy it. Oh, and then I don't know if you guys have heard Blues by Starlight 2025. The event sponsors the Boys and Girls Club at the Central Mississippi. They have it every year. It's always phenomenal. It's always wonderful. Blues by Starlight. And that's always in October. So make sure you check that out and save your date. And then we have Fairish on Friday on Fairish, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's gonna be Father's Day weekend. So if you're a father, if you're in town for Father's Day, June 13th, they having Friday on Fairish. They have live music, food and drink vendors, and if you need more information, you can contact them. It's again it's on Fairish Street. And June is Men's Health Month. So Dr. Shalonda wanted me to make sure that I wanted you guys to know that National Men's Health Awareness Month celebrated is in June. It aims to raise awareness of preventable health issues and encourage early detection and treatment in men and boys. It also encourages men to be proactive about their health by making so that is National Men's Health and Awareness Month. And then we have my best friend, Passport Hughes is celebrating his birthday next week at the Parlor Room, June the 3rd. So if you know, you know. If you know, you know. We're going to party next week for all week for his birthday. So happy early birthday to my best friend, Damian Hughes. He's CEO of American Slang Collection, and also he manages over there at Parlor Room. So check them out next week, June 3rd. We're gonna be up in there and we're gonna celebrate my best friend. So my best friend, my best friend, my best friend. So that's all for new. Oh, we have one other thing. We have the fourth annual Don't Forget About Us Men's Mental Health and Wellness Summit, June the 12th. Topics are the missing piece. You have understanding the impact of maternal absence on men, boys and men, a professional counseling perspective on emotional development and mental well-being, men and grief, men and trauma, and also, you have a lot of great speakers, a lot of men that are going to be speaking on this topic. And this event is again June the 12th, 2024. It's the fourth annual. Don't forget about us. And that's important because that's one of the things that I don't want to forget. We always talk about women and what we go through, but we don't ever want to forget about the men. So that is really huge. So thank you, Dr. Shalonda, for highlighting that event for me so that we can always don't forget about our men. And then the last thing that I do want to mention is the Boss Brothers Universe. They do have their book out. Make sure you go and support the Boss Brothers Universe. Those guys are really, really, they go from Atlanta, they go to Mississippi, anywhere you see an event, they're promoting their books. And they don't just have one, but they have many. And also support Dr. Shalonda because Dr. Shalonda have books as well. And she can tell you more about it. But make sure you support her as well. But we're going to get into the meat and the gritty of the interview. But this is news you can use. So, Dr. Shalonda, are you ready? I think she kind of paused for a second.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay, okay. All right. So, if you guys watch Trauma, the part one and then part two, this is part three of Trauma. And just to give you a little heads up about trauma, I'm going to read to you the Google's definition because she's going to tell you the professional definition about how trauma is, but I'm going to give you Google's definition of trauma. So, psychological trauma is a severe emotional response to a stressful event that overwhelms a person's ability to process it emotionally. And we talked about in part one and part two, we talked about all different types of trauma. So we're gonna get into a little bit about it. So I'm gonna pull it over to you so you can introduce us about trauma, and then we'll get into the questions.
Okay. So pretty much what you said trauma is, it's an emotional response to a stressful event. Trauma can look different for each individual. Trauma could be somebody having childhood trauma, which it could be a divorce, it could be a loved one passing away, it could be COVID-19, it can be generational trauma. So, trauma looks different for everybody, and trauma can affect somebody in a different way. Somebody may have abandonment issues from a parent. So, it just depends on the event and how that person responds to that event. So you may have two children that they both were from divorce homes. One may not have any trauma from that divorce, but the other child may have trauma from it. So it's whatever the event that impacts that person's well-being, how they respond to things. It's a stressful event to them.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing that. And I do know that there are some three types of trauma. So we have the three main types of trauma are acute, chronic, and complex trauma. Acute trauma results from a single sudden event, while chronic trauma involves repeated or prolonged exposure to stressful events. Complex trauma, on the hand, arises from exposure to multiple traumatic events, often within interpersonal relationships. So now we're going to get into some of the questions. Um, we're going to start with the ones starting from seven on, and then if we have time, we'll go back up because it may be somebody that missed the first six, and it may be possible that we may have time. Is that okay with you, Dr. Shalonda?
Hmm.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. And you stop me, because you have so much great information. So you stop me at any given time if you need to chime in and give a little bit more explanation of what it is, okay?
So you made a good point about the three types of trauma, and I know sometimes when we hear definitions, we hear them, but we don't hear them to understand. So I
Mhm.
love to give an example for each
Please.
three so people can apply it when they're
Mhm.
processing this information. So acute trauma, like you said, is a single incident. That could be a car accident, or that could be seeing something like a terrible event. Chronic trauma is something that continues repetitive. It could be you being in a domestic violence relationship, it could be you being in a toxic relationship, or not just domestic violence, it could be any type of abuse that you are experiencing for a long period of time. We always correlate trauma with physical abuse, but it's individuals that have received or have been the victim of verbal abuse.
Mhm.
And our complex trauma could be a variety of trauma. Sometimes people have traumatic events that happen. Sometimes they could be experiencing some things at work. For example, I'm gonna give you one for me. When I worked as an ER social worker at a trauma hospital, you know, I saw a lot of trauma. So
Mhm.
anything that you saw on Lifetime or anything that you can imagine, it's going to come to a trauma hospital. So
Mhm.
sometimes when you see those things, it can create a lot of vicarious trauma or secondary trauma. Not necessarily that you went through it yourself, but you experienced it because you were there. Complex trauma could be somebody that experienced a lot of childhood abuse, then grew up and started experiencing dysfunctional trauma and trauma in their adulthood. So it's very complexities. And what I'm learning about people when I'm dealing with people, not just people that sit on my couch, a lot of us have experienced complex trauma and still are experiencing complex trauma.
I do agree with you on that. I think a lot of people are carrying around a lot, and people want to say it's baggage, but I don't like to say it's baggage. Like you say, the really word is trauma, and I feel like some people don't even know that they have trauma. They don't see it within themselves until someone else sees it, and that's why it's really important that if you don't know what's going on and you're acting out or you is coming out through your behavior, sometimes it is good to talk to a therapist. Not it is should be you should talk to a therapist because they have insight on things that you would not normally see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into, and that's a great point. So thank you for sharing that the examples for people, because I'm like that too. Like, I know it's different cognitive styles where people learn differently. I'm more of a visual person. So by you breaking it down, it actually helps me, and I know it probably helps a lot of other people to be able to understand what those three types of traumas are, and then they can relate it to maybe a situation in their past, their childhood, or even something that happened 5 years ago that still they're carrying on, that still happen. We talked about postpartum. That's a big thing. That's a trauma. Going
Absolutely.
through a miscarriage, going through um grief, losing someone. And it don't always have to be losing someone. It could be having a divorce. A divorce is a grief. And people don't see it and don't recognize it. But like for me, um I didn't realize it when I was, going through it. I didn't realize what it was, but now that I know, and I'm, much wiser now, I know that that's probably what it would have been. Um, so, I like to keep it real, and I like to make sure that my viewers know that you're not the only person going through things. It's how you look at it, how you approach it, and how you move on from it. So just, it's okay to what's the word, show grief in whatever way that it may look for you. Then once you show that grief, talk about it. It's healthy to talk about it. It's healthy to cry. Even for men, it's healthy to cry. Then now you can discuss it, and now you can find ways to help resolve it and to make it healthier for you to deal with whatever you dealt with. So that's how I did. As well as talk to a therapist, because I didn't have therapists over 20 some years. Like I told everybody, like I have a therapist for, when it's time for me to have one. I don't mind having one because I can't do it alone. And I feel like so many people in this world think that you can walk around here doing things alone. And I think any successful person, I've heard a lot of celebrities say, well, I wouldn't have been able to be so successful if I didn't have a therapist, because that therapist kept me aligned to how I should be, and how, because from day to day I'm so busy. People push me from this way to this way, but my therapist is able to keep me all on one accord. And see, and that's why I say
Absolutely.
it's okay to have a therapist. It's okay, it's good to have one. So we're gonna go into the next question. Okay. So, do everyone dealing with a death or trauma require or need to be on meds, and why?
Absolutely not. It's natural to go through the stages of grief. Um, we all are going to experience grief in some form or fashion, like you stated. Grief does not have to be a loved one passing, grief can be a divorce. So, absolutely not. I think what happens when it starts interfering with your daily functioning, and what I mean by interfering with your daily functioning, when you can't sleep, when you are having a difficulty on your job, performing your job, when you have difficulties with relationships. And sometimes we do understand when we're dealing with grief, we may not want to be bothered. We may want some alone time. But when it starts interfering with your daily life, when you can't get out of the bed, when you go to work and you can't function or do the job performance, that's when you may need to seek somebody. And I'm glad it's still May, Mental Health Awareness Month, and you made a great point. We still are trying to destigmatize mental health. Is nothing wrong with going to see somebody that is a trained professional to help you cope through your daily stressors or daily events or past trauma. It's okay. And everybody that deals with death or grief does not have to be medicated. Sometimes we have to alternate our healthy coping mechanisms, and a therapist is actually a healthy coping mechanisms. So you not necessarily have to go see somebody if you're dealing with grief, but if it start to interfering with your daily life for an extended period of time, you may need to go seek some professional help. And that does not mean because you go seek professional help that they're going to prescribe you some medication. It's plenty of individuals that go to therapy and are not on medication. Now, there's nothing wrong with medication now. If you need it, sometimes we have anxiety, we have depression, and therapy plus the medication helps. But just because you are experiencing some type of trauma doesn't mean that you need to be medicated. Sometimes we need somebody who is trained to help us process through this new stressor or this past stressor in our life. I think sometimes we put therapy, mental health in a different aspect than spirituality and physical health. We
Mm-hmm.
will go get a trainer, we will get a nutritionist, we'll go get a dietitian, we will get workout partners.
Yes.
If we're having issues with weight, or the doctor says that our high blood pressure is high, we'll go to the doctor, we'll get on medicine for that. Or if it's not where we're at medication, we will try to change our eating habits, do things to lower our cholesterol. And if it's spiritual, we will go and change our spiritual regimen. Maybe praying, meditation, talking with our pastor. But it's something about the mental health part that scares people. And I do know where that comes from. A lot of that comes from our past, our generational,
Mm-hmm.
where when we were, I'm just going to be honest, we're going to keep it real.
Yep.
Some of us, back when we were slavery or we were in in another area, our escape or what we trusted was the church. That's
Mm-hmm.
the only thing we had back then. And so sometimes we still have that mentality
Yep.
that people are out to hurt us. And not
Mm-hmm.
just in slavery. We went through segregation, we went through a lot of uh, brutality and racial inequality, even when we went to try to go get treatment with mental health, or not just mental health, maternal health or whatever. So sometimes we're skeptical of going out and getting the help that we need.
Mm-hmm.
And so we suffer in silence.
And which we shouldn't even have to.
Absolutely. If you're not feeling some type of way, you shouldn't be stigmatized or somebody tell you that you're crazy. You just need to go get on some medicine. That shouldn't be the first response. It should be, I'm glad that you're acknowledging that something's going on with you and that you're going to seek the help that you need.
Right, because God forbid if something happened to your loved one or something happens and then you'll be like, well, I didn't miss the signs. I didn't know, but they told you and you just didn't listen. So,
Absolutely. But you know what? I'm going to play devil's advocate just a tad, because sometimes family do see the signs and that person is just not ready to go get that help because of stigma. Or they are
mm,
so worried about what society is going to say to them or how
yeah,
society is going to view. Sometimes that's one of the main reasons people don't go get help, because they're so worried about somebody that don't pay your bills, how they're going to
that
respond
part,
to you going out getting help.
that part.
And that's the issue. We people please. We are so worried about, oh, this person going to think I'm such and such. It shouldn't matter.
No.
um, And it also goes back to happiness. When I always ask somebody when they come to me, what makes you happy? And 80% of that time, they can't even tell me what makes them happy because they're basing their happiness on somebody else's life or
That
what.
part.
So it's kind of like we have to start stepping back. And if our mental health is suffering, we have to be okay with saying, okay, let me go find somebody that can help me through these challenges.
Yeah, because I remember seeing the sit down conversation. I don't know if you ever saw that with Will Smith,
Mm,
and I think he was talking, and he was saying that um he always thought that buying, Jada, all these big lavish things was gonna get her out of her depression. And he
mm,
was like, he thought that he could make her happy. But
mm,
when she finally told him after her big, it was one big birthday. I don't know if it was her 50th or her 40th birthday. He had threw this lavish birthday. I'm talking about lavish, flew in all her family and friends. I mean, it just was a beautiful, and she was crying. He said he didn't know what was wrong, but she told him, she was like, "You didn't listen. I
mm.
I was telling you that something was wrong, and you just didn't listen." And he just thought that being that he was there for her every step of the way, trying to make her happy, but like you just stated, you are the only person can really make yourself happy. You
Absolutely.
already, when you meet somebody and when you're dating somebody and when you're married to somebody, you should already be happy with yourself. And when you align yourself and you're equally yoked, that's just you bringing something extra to the table. It's not where that person is supposed to complete you. And we see it all on fairy tales, where all on movies talking about, oh, I hope I find somebody to complete me. No, that is not true. You don't need anybody to complete you. What you need is for you to be already completed.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I just thought, I'm glad you mentioned that. That was a wonderful thing that you just mentioned about that. Um Next question is exercise and meditation on an alternative to meds? Because you know how some people they like to do their little special herbals, and we know herbals. When I say herbals,
I know. So to answer that question in its entirety, is not an alternative to meds, but it's actually they are physical coping skills that can help you through your mental health challenges. And I'm going to say this, everybody that has anxiety or depression are not on medication. Some use, positive coping skills like exercise, positive support, problem solving, humor, to get through do those challenges. But it's not an alternative, and I do know some people that self-medicate with marijuana or other herbal remedies. Um, I don't prescribe medicine, so I'm not going to attest to that. But I do have, clients that see me, and also it depends on the case. Some things are hereditary. Some things, if they're hereditary, they're just hereditary. And some individuals, they do have to take medicine for anxiety or depression. But exercise and meditation are physical coping skills to help you through it. But like I said, everybody that has depression or anxiety are not on medication. They have other
okay,
things that they can do to help them do those symptoms.
okay. So when Snoop Dogg be on that herbal, and he always recommend that herbal is just in case you need it. So everybody don't need it; they just want to be old.
Well, you know what? That's actually, I'm gonna be honest, that's a negative coping skill. And I
Hmm.
want to really get people to understand what positive and negative coping skills are. So, negative coping skills, unfortunately, are the things that we're gonna immediately go to because they give us instant gratification and they make us feel better immediately.
Hmm.
So, marijuana is gonna give you instant gratification. It's gonna make you not think about what's going on. You're going to relax, just like alcohol or chocolate or gambling or shopping on Amazon Prime. Even though you don't need the whatever you're ordering, it just makes you
Mm-hmm.
feel good. And what we want to try to continue to try to move forward is those positive coping skills. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, because positive coping skills, it takes time, we want to go to the negative coping skills. And so that herbal, remedies, it's immediate. Alcohol is immediate, so we go to that. But they only short term, because guess what, those symptoms going to always come back, and you're going to have to deal with them.
That's true. But here on the show, on Mo Loves to Talk podcast, we listen and we
We
don't
don't
judge.
judge. Absolutely. I just tell people all the time, I can't stop you from doing what you feel
Mm-hmm.
like, um, that's best for you, but I can also tell you that's just a short term.
Right.
That's a short term remedy for whatever you're struggling with on the inside that we need to work through.
That's so
Sometimes
true.
people do not want to work through those hard issues, especially if it's generational,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it deals with immediate family members.
Mm-hmm.
We do not want to deal with that. Sometimes a lot of our stressors and trauma come from our immediate family members sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it escalates into our adulthood. We don't want to deal with that. They'll come in and say, "Hey, I want to deal with, I have anxiety, depression. I have a lot of stuff going on with my job. We have a lot of, tasks that we're doing." But after you get to talking to them, you find out there's a lot of dysfunction in the family. You find like it's a lot of toxicity with the family. You find out a lot of things that may be prohibiting them to deal with what's going on. So it's kind of like, sometimes when you go to therapy, we want to work on surface base. We don't want to work on the things that actually are making us feel the way we feel.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that sounds a good point. But can I ask you? This is when you just said that. When you just said that, it kind of I kind of want to sidebar conversation and ask you something else.
Okay.
Um, because the word trigger.
Mm,
Because when you were talking about that, I said, "Ooh, I bet you it's a lot of people that's dealing with triggers that actually will take them back to what they had to deal with that trauma." So, like,
mm,
say for example, if you was in a domestic violence situation and somebody always hollered at you, somebody always was mean and verbally abusive as well, and then you come into a workplace and somebody's hollering at you or something, that's a trigger. And
absolutely.
so when you were talking about that, I was like, oh, I bet you that is something that a lot of people don't even recognize, that they have things that trigger them as well. So can you talk about that too?
So triggers are things that may cause anxiety or stress or stressful situation to impede. And triggers can be people, places, situations. And you gave a good example about, for example, if a person was in a domestic violence relationship and the perpetrator used a lot of, hostile tone, and they heard that hostile tone in their work environment, it may trigger them. So I think one of the things when you're dealing with symptoms or whatever type of situation, you have to know what you are. Sometimes you have to be aware if it's a man hollering at you versus a woman. Where does that come from? Does that come from a parent, or where does that particular trigger come from? We have to do a lot of being socially and self-aware. And I'm going to use myself as anxiety. I really had started having really bad anxiety in 2009, and I still battle with anxiety. But I know my triggers now. So what I learned was, I learned to too much stimuli. If too many things are going on at the same time, I have to step back from that situation. Group text. If too many group texts going on back to back, I got to mute the group because it's too much stimuli for me. It can cause me to have anxiety symptoms.
Mhm.
So we have to figure out our play. I may respond to text, if it's not too, if it's light, but I might go outside the group text. Or if it's a lot going on where I'm at a conference, I may have to take a
Mhm.
5 minute and do some mindfulness meditation. So we have to be aware of our triggers. If I have too many negative people in my life, or we're not problem solving, and it's always something with those people, I have to step back from that because that's too much for me. So we
Mhm.
have to be aware of and triggers are they're different for different people. Some people are easily triggered during the winter months
Mhm.
when it gets dark earlier. So we have to figure out what our triggers are. And triggers are could be people, places, things, situations. You might have had an awful event happen at a certain restaurant or a certain time of the year. So you have to be aware during that time of the year how you respond. My mom's death anniversary is in March. I have to be very aware of March and how I respond because sometimes when you subconsciously hurting, you may respond in a way that's not conducive to the environment. So I
Mhm.
try to make sure during the month of March that I'm aware how I respond to people. What I
Mhm.
do in the month of March, I like to do a lot of volunteering. I like to give back, but you have to be aware so that you can put things in place.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you say you're aware of things that trigger you. And the one thing that I like to say is that when I'm aware of my triggers, and then I try to tell people that I look, this triggers me, so I'm gonna take myself out of the situation. I'm going to focus on doing other things in order to get my mind off of things that trigger me, or people who trigger me, or things that trigger me. Because it don't always have to be a person. It can be
Right.
things that trigger you, or it could be music that you remember or you hear and it triggers you about something. So that's a great thank you for so much for obliging me for that, because I heard it in your conversation. I said I think we need to say something about triggers, because I think a lot of people are really triggered, and I think that's a word that more people don't even think about it, because they're so busy being in the moment of when it happens, and getting upset and getting and frustrated, and they didn't take it in a moment and say, hey, you do need to just take yourself from it. Like sometimes people be egging you on because they know that they can do that. And at some point you just got to say enough is enough. Like, take yourself from out of that situation. If you know somebody is hollering at you, even if you know it's, because I know sometimes with a domestic violence, we're just gonna keep it real. Like with domestic violence, sometimes that person is in the out of body experience, I'm sure sometimes. And but when you are talking to that person and yelling back at that person and you egging that person on, you know that what it's going to take you. So for me, I would hope that the person would go in and just remove yourself out of that situation, not keep egging, not keep on hollering, not keep on throwing, not keep on doing anything, so that everybody can stay safe. The person who is the victim and the person who is doing the victimizing.
And also, when somebody says that they're triggered, make sure, and this is for the audience, don't take it personal. Don't take
Mhm.
it personal. If they're letting you know that things trigger them, just try to
Mhm.
help them through that moment and move on. Because 9 out of 10 is really nothing about you. Um, when people are letting you know that this triggers them, I think sometimes we take on that because of our own unhealed trauma.
Mhm. oh, let me just say this. I hate when people say, "Oh, you just so sensitive." No,
Mm,
it's just that you don't know what the traumas that I have been through or the traumas of that person has been through. So things that you may say, yeah, you may not feel like that's a big deal because you've maybe not have walked in those shoes and you don't know what they've been through, so you can say that they're being sensitive, but technically they're really not being sensitive. Again, that's a trigger for them.
absolutely.
So I would just say be careful, because and in this day and time, just treat people like you want to be treated, and that way you won't even have to worry about anything else. Talk to people how you want to be taught. When you text people, text them how you want to be text. And then also recognize, like, when your friends are not being, or your family members are not being vocal anymore, when they're not coming around anymore, when they're not being sociable anymore. Those are things that you can recognize in depression, anxiety, and things that that are not normal, for them. You can recognize that, and then you don't have to say, call a spade and say, girl, you don't come out no more, you don't do nothing. You don't have to say it like that. You can just, sometimes just go bake a cake or something and come pull up and say, hey, I don't want to invade your I don't want to interfere with your space, but I baked you your favorite cake, and I just want to drop it off, let you know I was thinking about you. Those type of things, for somebody who's going through depression and anxiety, that means a lot, because you just never know if that person was thinking about something that day and that was making them upset or mad, and had them not want to even get out the bed. But by you making that one gesture, because a lot of people, this is another thing people do, they're like, well, I just want to leave them alone, have their space. They will tell you if they want you to leave them alone and have your space. They will tell you that. Most people will
It
tell you
will.
that. They will say that. But a lot of times they don't say it because they want you to just do it.
Absolutely. And sometimes just saying, "Hey, I'm just checking in."
Right. Yeah, because I try to do that, and I know my friends probably say, dang, she takes so. But I do that because if you think about it, like, how they say, when you hug people, that's because you really want to be hugged. I
Mm.
do that. I do that because I want people to do that for me. So I check on people because I want them to check on me. See, and that's what it's really about. So, like, if you know your people, like, that's part of their love language. So if that's part of their love language, that's what it is.
You made a good point though. Is it a part of their love language? Because sometimes we love people from our own love language.
Hmm.
So, you may be quality time or physical touch. Your friend may be words of affirmation, or your loved one. So we have to make sure that we're loving people from their love language, not
Hmm.
our love language. And we
That's a good point.
typically, I have somebody, they love to, um, and they always love to give jewelry and things like that. If you know me, I, I lose jewelry. I may do a few hoops. I do have some for special occasion. But they were loving me from their love language, not
Hmm.
necessarily my love language.
Oh, that's
My
true.
love language is notes and pictures and things like that. But when you get to talking to people and they understand that,
Hmm.
and people start loving you from your language, that's how you build a better connection with that person. I think sometimes, just like with unhealed trauma, if we have unhealed trauma, sometimes we project that onto others. And with love language, we love people from our own love language. And so we
Hmm.
have to be in a space now to be more aware of the people that we surround ourselves. We have to be aware of our triggers. We have to be aware of our love language, their love language. We just have to be more aware, um, so that we can help each other during whatever storm, stressor, a life challenge may come by.
That's a good point. So, when searching for a therapist, what thing do you recommend people ask in a consultation?
First and foremost, I always tell people, Oh, I hope nobody don't beat me up. If you have insurance, even if it's Medicaid, you don't have to go to um, the first person that somebody gives you. I know a lot of people know about our mental health centers, which are fine. But if you have insurance, you can research, you can call your insurance company and see who is in network. So
Mhm.
when you have insurance, your insurance carrier has providers that are in network with your insurance that you can use. So it's important for you to know that so that you can start researching. You don't have to go to the first person. You can ask for a 15-minute consultation. Start going to individuals' websites. Start seeing if you all have some of the same morals and values. Do
Mhm.
15-minute consultations with people. You don't have to go to the first person you see. I always say, just like you go out and you, for a car, you don't take the first thing you get. You don't do that with therapists.
Mhm.
It's so many competent people that have a array of things that they can offer, and it's so many great therapists that are out there. And like I said, if you don't know where to start, sometimes word of mouth is good. Also, you can contact your insurance carrier. They can give you a list of names. You can do your research to see, because every therapist is not for everybody. You just have to find the therapist that works for you.
And while you're doing that and talking about that, I'm putting your website on here so people can go in to your website and tell them where your locations are. Okay.
So my locations are, I have a office location in Pearl and I have an office location in Ridgeland. Both locations are by appointment, and we have a trained professional at the Pearl location. I cover the one in Ridgeland. My office hours are in the evenings by appointment and every other Saturday by appointment. But I also um, refer out. I have a lot of colleagues that I refer out to because I can't see everybody. And my ultimate goal is for you to get the help that you need. And so I have a list of wonderful people that I refer to. I have Courtney Perry, I have Davis Therapeutic Services, I have Mine Okay, I have Crystal Waters. I just have so many different therapists that I refer out. LeJune Johnson. I just have so many different ones because my goal is for you to get what you need. And there's plenty of therapy out there. I have some of my colleagues that they do more postpartum. I have
Mhm.
some that do more grief therapy. And so
Mhm.
it just depends on your needs. And either if I can't see you, I will get you to a great referral that's going to take care of you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And that's www.carlisleforgrowth.com. Two locations in Pearl and Ridgeland. And we're gonna answer because we got 7 more minutes, and this been a good conversation. Like it is always not enough time because the conversation is so good. So we cannot wait to get you back on the show so we can continue the conversation. Um, but we're gonna talk about, can you explain how adults trauma and kids trauma, teens trauma can affect people differently?
Absolutely. So a teen mind are totally different. And the way they respond totally different. A teen may become angry, stop doing their work, may lash out at others versus how an adult will deal with trauma. And so their minds are just totally different on how they process information. But what we have learned sometimes, adults that have not healed from may respond in a way. It depends on what the trauma is. sometimes we have defense mechanisms that help us. You have a lot of individuals that may have been raped or had something severe, and so those events, and so they may respond in a totally respond to different traumas differently because their minds are not fully developed. A thing may somebody break them, just like it's the end of the world, versus that has had it's the same for the adult, but just the way their mind processes things are totally different. Even with how they process mental health challenges, it's totally different.
Okay. Well, it's I'm gonna do one more questions. If a family member lost someone, what are three tips that you can share to help them in their healing process?
Okay, I think I heard um, they him to help that particular family member through that process.
Yes, if a family member lost someone,
Active
what are
listening
three?
is important. Them and asking them what they need. So
Okay,
just
say
being
that.
there for them, making sure that they don't go into a place, if you're sick or not eating, you know, just just kind of looking at that and making sure that those not interfering with their daily functioning. Grief for people to be sad. I it get where it's going on too long. I kind of talk to them about that for them during that time, and people grief or tragedies or challenges totally different. So knowing that
Yes,
person, I want to say this: look out for your strong friend,
yes, yes,
the ones that are hurting the most.
yes. I totally agree on that. And if we
So
don't agree on anything else,
I've been talking more awareness month. We forget the strong friend. We forget them because they're always so strong. But they're the one that deals with a lot of anxiety. They're the ones that have a hard time sleeping. Um,
yes. And then also, like I said, we don't want to forget about our men because our men do a lot. They're providers, they're supposed to be strong, and it's a lot of things that they are not being vulnerable, they don't share their feelings. And so one thing that I would like to see, and I do want to show, so if you're a guy out
they
there
need
that want to
somebody
come
to
on.
check on them.
Yes, and if you're a guy out there, if you want to come on this show and we talk about conversations about getting more vulnerable and being open space and having a safe space to talk, come reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. I would love to have a conversation with you guys. I would love to have a sit down conversation with a group of men who would like to just talk. And that would be great. Even if we could have a therapist with us, that's great. If not, we can still just talk. Because I just really believe in the gift of talking. I think that so many people, once you've talked things through with somebody that's has a neutral idea, and they don't even have anything vested in it, they just want to see you win or just want to see you happy or see you on a healing journey, and they don't really even have to talk. A lot of times what I tell men all the time. You could just talk to someone and you don't even really, they don't really have to solve anything. They just want to want you to be able to get it off your chest. And once you get it off your chest, I feel like even me, I feel so much better when I talk to somebody about something. Just getting it off my chest, I'm really not asking them to resolve anything. I'm just sometimes just want them to listen. So again, it's been a great show. But did you want to shout out anybody or anyone, any other therapists you want to give a shout out to before we leave?
Well, I don't want to give a shout out to anybody, but I also wanted to talk about my Teen Suicide Summit.
Yes.
I host a free Teen Suicide Summit in September each year. It's a summit that's typically from 9 to 2. The summit is style, and we have breakout sessions for teens and adults. And when I mean teens, I don't mean just teens that are in high school. It's actually for young adults, young adults
Mhm.
transitioning into college. And
Mhm.
so typically we have, um, sessions or topics that our teens have asked. And so this year, we are going to have some phenomenal speakers. We're going to have topics on self mutilation, anger management, Open Up Mississippi. NAMI is from NAMI. Some wonderful teams that do a mental health presentation. They go all across the state. They will be our opening speaker. We have some phenomenal speakers for our parents and our community stakeholders. I think one of the topics is how to respond to your child's mental health. We typically have a lot of community vendors. Sometimes you made a good point, like when we go looking for therapists, we don't know where to look. And so one of the things that I wanted to make sure that my summit had is resources that are there so that our, teams, our community stakeholders, our parents have there. So it'll be therapists there. It'll be resources that help with teens. It will be psych MPs that prescribe medication. It will be inpatient hospitalization facilities. It will be mentoring programs, any programs that promote, support, empower our teens are going to be available at this event. Every year, we usually give a self care box. We provide lunch. And so every year it's been growing. We hope this year is going to, we know this year is going to be phenomenal. And one of my goals is to have at least 3 to 4 across the state, one in the Delta, just other areas, so that all of our teams would have access to this wonderful information and these resources that are available to prevent suicide, because we know that suicide is preventable, and we have to start letting our teams know that they matter, and we
Mhm.
have to be able to identify signs and symptoms when they are struggling.
I love that, and I thank you so much. Kudos to you and all the hard work that you do, because you do this, and you don't have to do it. You do it for the community, and I know this is hard work. It's a labor of love, and you really are going to impact the community by doing this for these teens and, like you say, young adults. So I want you to come back on when it's getting closer to the date so we can talk more about it, because I definitely want people to do whatever they can to help you out, to donate. You know, I'm going to do everything I can. The podcast team, we're going to blast it all over so everybody would know about it. And I really love the fact that this is like your mission to do this every year. And so like I said, kudos to you, because that's something that, like, teen suicide, people really not talking about it as much as they need to be talking about it, because we need to save our teens, because they are our future. And so I think that's great. So kudos to you. And again, I really appreciate you being on my show.
Thank you.
um
And
y- Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, yes, you're welcome, Dr. Shalonda. So again, you can check out Dr. Shalonda at www.carlisleforgrowth.com. She has two locations in Pearl and Ridgeland, and she does take by appointments. So make sure if you or a family member or someone that you love needs a good therapist, make sure you check out Dr. Shalonda or someone at her clinics. So, again, thank you so much, Dr. Shalonda, for joining us tonight on Mother of the Top podcast. And drop my theme song. See y'all next time on Mother of the Top podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shalonda.
Thank you.